let's go ahead and get started, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So welcome back again, everybody. Another ABS webinar. We are going to talk to you guys today about cybersecurity. The goal for today, Tucker, if you can hit next on the slide there. Oh, here we go. Our poll results. It's a dead heat for everybody.
Wow.
Tucker's feeling the love for sure.
Yeah, that's impressive, isn't it?
Yes. All right. Well, it was a good mix of drawing people to this event. Our goal today is to educate our customers. That is ABS's responsibility. We educate you on your risk, talk to you about IT strategy, and I've brought a couple of guests today to help with that education, so you can have a more in-depth conversation and an educated conversation with your TAM, whether it's in your upcoming EBR or in a one-off. But before we get into that, I want to introduce a friend of mine named Dante Wheat. Dante is from a company called Raw Pineapples. He helped put together the cocktail kits that we sent to you guys. You can enjoy more of Dante's beverages and some delicious food at Brick's Wine Bar. That's on LaGrange Road near Anchorage. Dante, would you please show us how to make one of my favorite drinks, the old fashioned?
Yes, sir. All right. Like you said, my name is Dante Wheat. I own a company called Raw Pineapples. It's a company focused on making a better, less pretentious drinking culture. Today, I'm going to lead you guys in making an old fashioned. We picked an old fashioned for two reasons. One, it's the oldest cocktail. It was first written down in the early 1800s as a cocktail made in the old fashioned way, which goes to show you it's been around a lot longer than that. It is probably one of the only pre-prohibition cocktails that you can go to any bar around the world, ask them to make you one, and they'll make it for you. In your kits, you have small little vial, which is filled with a maraschino, a Luxardo cherry. That'll be your garnish. A little dropper bottle with a raw pineapple signature on it. That's our bitters. A little clear bottle with some brown liquid in it. That's your Demerara syrup. And then a bottle of Old Forester. Yours won't look like mine, but you have Old Forester in your all's packages. Grab your cup of ice and set it in front of you. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add in the Demerara sugar syrup. I know lots of times when you make old fashions, or when people make old fashions for you, they like to use regular sugar and put it in the bottom and muddle it. But what happens with that is it's like with sweet tea, it doesn't all dissolve. So we took the liberty to make a syrup for you, so it's easier to apply and make sure all of it gets incorporated in your drink. You're going to pour a small little dollop into your glass, just a little bit. You're not using the whole bottle. If you think you need more, hold off until the very end, because what the thing about cocktails is you can't take things out, but you can always add more. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our little bottle of bitters. The bitters we made for you today is a combination of Angostura, black walnut, and orange. Angostura are classic and old fashions. They're in their most common bitters you'll ever find. But I took the liberty of adding a little bit of black walnut bitters and a little bit of orange bitters there just to elevate it and give you guys a custom experience. So you're gonna fill your dropper and drop that in twice. Finally, you're gonna take your bottle of Old Forester, open that guy, and dump the entirety of it into your cocktail. We're using Old Forester today because it's a high rye bourbon, and that rye makes it a little bit more spicy than, like, let's say a Maker's Mark, which is all corn, and it plays along better with the sugar and bitters in the cocktail, giving you a sweet, spicy aspect to your cocktail. On the top of your box, there's a little stir stick, so grab that out, put that in your glass, and start stirring your cocktail. The main thing you're doing right now is you're chilling everything down and getting it cold, but you're also adding dilution. And what dilution is doing is taking off the heat off the bourbon, taking those bitter aspects and mellowing them out, and creating everything into one cohesive cocktail. Lastly, you're gonna open up your little vial of maraschino cherry and drop that in. Make sure the sugar gets in there with it. just to add a little bit of extra flavor to it. We're skipping the orange peel today because we already have orange in the bitters that we had created. And there you have it, your old fashioned.
Dante, I appreciate that, man. I hope everybody was able to follow along. I do have a quick question, and if anybody else has any questions before Dante leaves us, please let us know in the chat. Looks like we might have some chat stuff here. Dante, do you make the sugar? Do you make that at home, or is that something that you buy off the shelf?
Demerara sugar syrup, you make that at home. So you can just go to Kroger and grab a bulk turbinado sugar, and it's just equal parts sugar and water. Put those in a pot and just put them on medium low heat and stir it until it dissolves. You can buy regular simple syrup at the store, but it won't give you the richness that Demerara sugar syrup will give you.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us today, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So now that we have an adult beverage to liven up a cybersecurity conversation, I do want to invite everybody to put some questions in the Q&A as Tucker and Hannah, who I'll let introduce themselves shortly. We like to keep this interactive. So please bring questions as you have them. We'll save time towards the end as well. But we like to be interactive. Those of you that have joined previous security webinars, I've shown this multiple times. Ransomware is the biggest threat that we have to our businesses. It's a $20 billion industry that is really focused in on the small to medium size. That is 35% of ransomware victims nowadays. That ransom payment, the money that you have to pay to these bad actors is averaging $88,000, but your total cost due to a ransomware attack can reach an average of $180,000. This is what we're trying to protect from happening to our customers. Imagine a 16.2 day average of downtime. We've invited you all specifically to this webinar because we are talking about advanced cybersecurity. You are the C-level of the companies that we support. I know you understand the cost of doing business on a daily basis. Think about 16 days of downtime and what that could do to your company as we're going through this. Let's see, go ahead and hit that next slide for me, Tucker. We've been supporting you and your company for quite some time. For a lot of you, I've been with ABS for 15 years, and we've always brought this traditional layer of IT security where we're making sure that your firewalls are set up and you're on supported operating systems and antivirus is patched. This is what IT companies have done for as long as they've existed, quite frankly. But as security threats evolved, as they got smarter, we had to start layering our approach to protect that. It was no longer the traditional security was helping. So we're talking to you about risk assessments, identifying where those risks are, shoring up the traditional IT security. One of the first things we look at when we onboard a new customer is how is your security lining up? In a previous webinar, which those of you that missed it, we introduced an essential bundle that we recommend to all industries. That's the first layer that Tucker and I like to talk to the customers about. But again, I brought two friends with me today, one that you know very well, at least 9 of you came here not for him. But we're going to talk about the advanced security. Again, this is not for every industry. This is for compliance. This is for people that have information they really need to protect against. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Miss Hannah. Hannah is joining us from Arctic Wolf, and they are a partner of ours that help deliver this advanced cybersecurity.
Yeah, thanks, John. So like you mentioned, my name is Hannah Ostrom. I'm with Arctic Wolf, so I'm a customer success manager here. So I work with ABS to, whether it's pre-sales, doing webinars like this and getting customers on board, and then also on the back end, working with our engineers to make sure that the customers that we have together, everything is good to go on the back end as well. So pre-sales and post-sales, I'm here to help.
And my name is Tucker Oldham. I am Director of Technical Account Management at ABS. Obviously, 9 of you all have attended a webinar before that I did, but hopefully we'll change your mind by the end of this one because of Hannah and all the information she's going to bring to you. When we were putting this together, one of the comments I made to John was every time I bring up security to my customers, they want a drink. So we thought we would make lemons into lemonade today and not only talk about cybersecurity, but have a nice drink with it.
Hey, Tucker, real quick before you keep going, we do have a question.
Sure.
Is ransomware, I don't know why I can't say that, is ransomware real? Can it happen to us? Should your customers be worried? The answer is yes. It is no longer targeting Target and the big name brands. They're coming after your livelihood. They're locking your data because they know that's where they can get their payment from. And Tucker, if you would add anything to that.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth going back a slide or two in that John talked about this slide right here. This 88K per ransom, that number is going down. And it's going down because smaller and smaller companies are having this ransomware problem. It's not, like you say, the big industries right now. It's the small to medium businesses that Hannah and I are helping with so much. We hear about the Targets of the world. We hear about the Home Depots of the world. And I actually try to use not talk about those kinds of attacks when we're doing conversations with our customers because they don't relate to those big organizations. We've had folks that haven't followed our recommendations, small companies, 50 user companies be down for 2 to 3 weeks and be affected and have to pay ransomware in the $40,000-$50,000 range, but then have operational issues on top of that where the ransomwares cost them so much more, John. So yeah, great question. And we see it not only as real, but real within our customer base. Most of the folks that have followed our recommendations, even if they have been attacked, which is rare, we've been able to recover from them, but it is real for sure. And Hannah and I are going to talk a lot today about ways to keep that from happening to your business or reacting quickly when it does. So one of the first things I want to talk about is almost everybody on this call, the target for the technical account managers inviting you to this call was a lot of customers who have regulation requirements. And those could be anything from HIPAA to SOX to PCI, whatever the case may be. A lot of you all have compliances that you have to meet. And when these compliances first came out, they were a great idea. And I still feel that way because what they did was they went back and looked at businesses that were doing it right and then created a framework, a security framework around those businesses and passed that framework along and made it standards for these regulations. The problem is over time, folks don't think about that as necessarily security. They're not, because you're getting forms and you're just checkboxing forms. And if you're in that mode when you're trying to meet one of these compliances, we're not probably doing the security piece right. So when Hannah and I talk today about these things and our advanced security bundle, it's not only meeting a lot of the compliancy things, but most importantly, it's accomplishing what those compliances are for, which is making your environment secure. So do not, make sure that when you're thinking about this stuff, you're not thinking about it as just trying to pass a compliance or audit or a checkbox form, you're thinking about it in terms of securing your network. And when we think about it in those terms, I'm going to kind of refresh for those of you all that were on the Essential Bundles webinar. You've seen this before, but I want to talk about a real world example. And we're going to talk about our good friend Brad. And Brad is in the office and working. And while Brad's working, he's spending his time looking at KPIs and in his line of business applications. And he's probably getting a lot of those reports through Office 365. And Office 365 is becoming the main platform for email today. But we're adding security features to that. We're adding things like malware and multi-factor authentication. And Brad is sitting in the office behind a really fancy next-gen firewall that's doing intrusion prevention, intrusion detection, looking for malware coming in through that pipe. So Brad sits in an office and is very, very secure, protected behind all of that various layers of security that we've put. Unfortunately, today's business world's different. Brad's not necessarily just working in the office. Now we're all home with COVID, right? And I'm not going to stand up, but I look very similar to Brad in the way I work from home. But Brad's still looking at his KPIs. He's still using his office email, but notice that that firewall has disappeared. And now I've lost a layer of security when Brad's working from home that we just can't duplicate in his home environment as opposed to his office environment. Unfortunately, Brad doesn't always just work from home on his PC. Brad also does things like, instead of looking at his scorecards and his email, he's looking at his fantasy football team and how he's doing on Sunday with fantasy football, right? Well, unfortunately, up in the upper right-hand corner of every Yahoo fantasy football team, there's a little icon that says mail. And Brad has the ability to go to not his work email, but to his private Yahoo mail account. Now I've removed every security barrier. He's still working on his work PC, but there's nothing that's preventing him from getting an email like this one that says it's from the World Health Organization and to download Corona safety tips. He can click this and download this file. Well, of course, that file is a phishing attempt. It is downloading malware that's going to turn into a ransom request. But that ransom, that malware, isn't just with him at home. When Steve goes back into the office Monday morning, it's on his PC. And Hannah's going to talk about this concept in a few minutes. But the idea is that doesn't launch immediately. That ransomware doesn't just attack Brad's PC. It also propagates throughout the environment. And when it does that, it reaches the servers, it reaches all the PCs, but it also, a month later, arms itself. And now all of a sudden, the ransom takes off and you're being held hostage. And the worst part about this is because it dwelled within the environments for so long, you don't even know how it got in. You don't even know where that breach happened. So a lot of the companies today, when they're breached, they never find out where those breaches occur. So we created, and we talked about this on the last webinar, if you want to talk to your technical account managers about our Essential Security Bundle, we created this layer of security to stop this sort of attack. But for folks that have compliance, for folks that have highly sensitive data, there's more needed than just this Essential Bundle. And that's why we created the Advanced Security Bundle. That Advanced Security Bundle includes things like email encryption and data loss prevention, two things that are, again, some of those check boxes in your compliance requirements, along with email archiving. But the biggest component that moves you not just from a compliance standpoint, but into a much, much secure standpoint is the managed security operations services that comes with this. And Hannah's going to talk about this a lot, but what it does more than anything else is it decreases our response time and to really almost nothing. So Hannah, I'm going to let you walk through that in detail with folks, and we can go from there.
Sounds good. Awesome. So yeah, like Tucker mentioned, I'm just going to talk a little bit about just what's going on in the cybersecurity landscape today. And then, how ABS and Arctic Wolf combined is really kind of helping you guys solve some of those, the toughest challenges going on right now. So first and foremost, cybersecurity industry, we truly believe that it has an effectiveness problem. So that's really been combined with, there's an uptick in threat activity, which we all know. Yeah, there's a talent shortage. And it's, really created a situation where despite lots of products, despite all of this cybersecurity spend, we aren't necessarily getting better protection. So as you can see, there's over 3,000 vendors that are in the space. We're spending billions on cybersecurity, yet there's still 4,000 reported breaches last year. And we all know that's only a tiny fraction of what's actually happening today, as we all know most breaches are going unreported. So the goal is to take you away from this effectiveness problem and really into what our approach is. So, obviously the question is, what is the right approach? And we really want to help provide you with some context of what we've seen in the market leading up into this moment, because really, the security landscape is about a series of shifts in the market. So constantly the security industry has to adapt and build solutions that are capable of defending the threat at that given moment. So when we talk about 1990s, when we first came out with, in the cybersecurity landscape, it was very basic things like antivirus and firewall. And, attackers were able to shift and get around those tools right away. Next, we saw the market go towards next-gen tools. So this is more of like your Palo Alto next-gen firewalls. We saw next-gen AV, EDR tools come about, and it really introduced a new problem of complexity. So now we were really getting into this space of where there's too many tools and it's too hard to truly get the value from those tools that you're paying for. So then we moved into where we are at today, we moved into security platforms. So actually the market completely flipped on its head and there was a consolidation period. And we also moved to the cloud. So we saw bigger platforms come about like our Symantec and McAfee. And like I mentioned, the market was actually also disrupted by the SaaS delivery model, where companies like Carbon Black and CrowdStrike built these cloud-based platforms. And then even with all this consolidation, even with the SaaS delivery model, we're still seeing continued breaches, and that leads to the shifting again and really the current state of play today. So people are understanding that they need to understand the security tools that they have in place and truly thinking about security operations to ensure you get the value of what you're paying for. And, when we talk about this too, really, the antivirus and the firewalls is kind of what's included. And I'll let Tucker talk a little bit about this too, but that's really what's included in some of those basic packages. And in those basic packages, it doesn't necessarily have the more advanced security options. And that's really why ABS introduced that new advanced security bundle. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that, Tucker?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Hannah. This idea that in our regular managed service, it's kind of these two pieces, the antivirus and the firewall and some of those next gen tools that are kind of included in that managed service. But when we start thinking about the essential bundle that we were talking about, we're really kind of getting into those security platforms that you're talking about, adding some more tools into the mix and adding more layers. But when you really want to be that true higher level security, it's adding a layer where there's somebody watching all of this all the time. And I think that's a good way to tee up your service there, Hannah.
Definitely. Yep. We would be there all the time, 24/7. So that actually is a really, really good segue into, what does the right approach look like and what is the operational approach to cybersecurity? So when we talk about this, it includes all of these things, and I'll kind of, high level run through this. So first off, it's broad visibility. So there's, too many people have blind spots that lead to misconfigurations, and you can't protect what you can't see, right? Visibility should be spanning your endpoint, your network, and the cloud if you're using that as well. 24/7. So it sounds really cheesy, but the bad guys never take a day off. So you can't either, and we can in cybersecurity. It's absolutely a non-negotiable if you want coverage against the modern threats today. Monitoring is good 24/7, but what you really need, advanced threat detection, incident response capability, and risk detection. And then when we talk about, expertise, obviously the goal here is that you should really have a solution that you can consult with certified security experts, and constantly having, your cybersecurity, it's not a destination and it's a journey. So you should really learn from the threats that you encounter, and really turn those insights into proactive security improvements. So overall, that's kind of what the operational approach looks like. And that's really what we've built an entire company on here. And we'll kind of talk about the platform now and really what's going into, or, kind of what we do and how we do it. So with that being said, we have a cloud native platform on our back end, and we provide security operations as a concierge service. So I'll kind of get into what that means, but the way that we do this is, first off, we're going to leverage your existing tech stack. And what that means to you is that we're going to be vendor agnostic, and we work with what you already have. So there's no need to rip and replace. And by deploying our agents and our sensors, we're going to take all of your data and feed it back into our platform. So once it's in the centralized platform, you obviously have all of your data in one place, which can help with compliance. Like Tucker mentioned before, it can be a very, very big driver for companies when they're looking at security. But also a key, differentiator here is that we allow unlimited data ingestion. So we're not going to be capping you out on log volume or events, or having to do something crazy like delete items from monitoring. And really the third and key piece is that once your data is in the centralized platform, the goal is to build solutions on top of that platform. So again, what sets us apart from everybody else is that our solutions are provided by our concierge security team on the back end. So they monitor your data 24/7. And the goal again here is to tune and customize the service to maximize effectiveness in your environment. So they're not just responding and detecting the incidences, they're really going to be an extension of not only your team, but obviously the ABS's team as well.
Yeah, so one of the key critical things I want to mention here is this idea of teaming between Arctic Wolf and ABS. Obviously, ABS knows your all's environments the best. We are managing those on a daily basis. We know pretty much anything and everything that have to do with the environment. So you working with Arctic Wolf, when they are detecting something, they are working with your team here at ABS to decide if that threat is real, if it's not, and also working on whatever the remediation is in real time. And doing it where we're not affecting you as an end user, because we understand the network, whereas Arctic Wolf understand the security side of it so well.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest benefit here is that you not only get, the ABS team, but then you get the Arctic Wolf certified security experts on the back end. So we'll talk about managed detection and response. This is definitely our main service here. So MDRs, I'll call it. Really the purpose here is to help you defend threats that bypass any existing prevention tools that you have in place today. You can't have prevention if you don't have detection first. And we know it's badly needed, because actually in 70% of our brand new customers' environments, we actually uncover active threats that are living in their environment and again, weren't caught by those existing prevention tools. So again, these are 70% of our brand new customers. We're finding latent threats already. So question is, what do you get? Fundamentally, you get the concierge security team on the back end that's doing 24/7 coverage. They help with any sort of alert fatigue problem if you've ever been involved in that, but they're going to be triaging alerts and really only escalating up to the ABS team what you need to see first. So again, highest risk items are getting managed first. They're going to help with threat hunting, and they could respond quickly by doing containment on both the network and the host layers via our agent. And then finally, because the platform offers broad visibility across the network, the endpoint, and the cloud, everything that we do from an investigation and response perspective is going to be faster and more thorough because we have access to the most data possible in your environment, like I mentioned before. So our entire approach here is that we can do detection and we can do response, but we can also recover. And because of the concierge approach, we're going to know your network, we're going to know your company, and if something does get in, we're going to be able to find the root cause, validate remediation, and then again, collaborate with the ABS team on an ongoing basis to improve your overall risk posture and learn from anything that happened in your environment.
I definitely want to make sure I point this one out. 70% of Arctic Wolf's new customers, they find a latent threat within that environment. If you guys get one thing from today, understand that there is potential latent threats already in your network. I had a couple of questions that I think this might be a good time to answer, Hannah, if you don't mind. One of those is, this is a great question. Annette, I appreciate you asking it. I'm going to move it beyond just your ConnectWise to a cloud hosted environment. It says, does this threat only apply to what is in your server? If I use ConnectWise hosted or any hosted cloud platform, is there a risk? And the answer is yes, absolutely, because the threat, notice that the example I gave with Brad and going to Yahoo, those are cloud services. Office 365 is Yahoo Mail. All of those are cloud services. And he has downloaded that ransomware to his PC via one of those cloud services. Now, I don't expect your line of business applications that are being hosted in the cloud, you all to get ransomware from. At the same time, if a ransomware has attacked your individual machines and moves through the environment, they potentially have access to that data that you have in the cloud. And one of the cool, amazing things about what Hannah's solution does is it can monitor that cloud traffic as well. So I wanted to make sure I covered that. The other one we got was from Heiser Hearing, and this is a great question too, because we have a lot of customers on Datto for their backup. And the question is if there's a backup done every day with your Datto solution, then does ransomware lock that up? And I mention it now because Hannah's talked about the recovery that Arctic Wolf can do with our team and working through things. And if we do have to go to a backup solution and you do have Datto has a part of that solution is looking for ransomware or malware that's been backed up, quarantining that, and not including that in the backup. So the idea is I'm not backing up a ransomware. I can recover from that backup. And that's not necessarily a part of what you're talking about, Hannah, but I wanted to make sure I got that question answered for them.
Yep, no, I think that's great. And that was a good segue. We kind of talked about the cloud a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Tucker mentioned, basically we have a cloud monitoring portion here. So essentially the idea with this solution is to expand the MDR capabilities to the cloud. So really we want to identify any sort of, vulnerabilities and monitor for attacks and account compromises that are in progress. So biggest thing here is that almost half of our incidences in our customer base include a cloud component. So essentially, if you have it and you're going to move forward with the advanced security bundle, we want to make sure that we're monitoring it. So we help with basic things like identifying cloud infrastructure, monitoring SaaS applications, monitoring infrastructure as a service, along with risks, working across the platform to really ensure that you have the coverage that you need. So very, very important information to us. Again, almost half of our incidences include it. So it's really, really important that we're monitoring that. Perfect. And then, the biggest question is, if you go forward with the advanced security bundle and in turn Arctic Wolf, are you going to be getting better protection? And really, no matter what kind of attack type you're talking about, we see measurable improvement when using our service. So the biggest thing on here, the biggest point on this slide that I really want to drill home is just the notion of dwell time. So the industry averages over 200 days to identify an advanced threat. Where at Arctic Wolf, that's our chief mission. That's our absolute focus, is to identify those threats and bring them down to a matter of minutes. So again, over 200 days, like, Tucker and I mentioned, something could be going on in your environment and you have no idea because it takes so long in the industry to identify those types of threats. And then across the board, when we look at all the other attacks, whether it's, phishing, advanced threats, account takeover, these are all areas that our current customers have current prevention tools in place. And despite those tools, we're still finding things like successful phishing. We find advanced threats where attackers have hands on keyboard reaching out to command and control servers in almost half our customers. We find PII exposure in 70% of our accounts. So again, overall, it doesn't really matter what kind of security or what kind of attack type you're talking about. If you go forward with the advanced bundle, you're going to be getting better protection across the board.
Awesome, Hannah. John, let's answer a couple of the questions if you don't mind, and then we can keep going. I think that might make some sense.
Oh, not tee them up and you knock them out. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
I think you might have just touched on this. Do cloud storage solutions like Dropbox and Box provide a level of protection against ransomware?
Hannah, you want to take that? You want me to?
You go ahead. I mean, feel free, and then I'll kind of fill in any blanks.
Yeah, sure. So the answer is yes and no. So just like any cloud provider out there is providing a level of security for their platform. So firewalls and a protected data center, all of that stuff they're doing, and they certainly are doing their best to keep breaches from happening within their platform. The problem is what we've talked about today, the idea that you and your end users, devices, and potential breaches that come in from that angle, you are saving whatever data you want up to those cloud providers. So you potentially, even though you have a very safe place to put them, you end up with something encrypted and held hostage in your safe environment, if that makes sense. Am I explaining that correctly, Hannah? Was that?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's helpful kind of to provide examples too, I would think. So, something that we're going to alert you on in the cloud that, a cloud provider like a G Suite or something wouldn't be able to tell you is like, if there's like an out of country login, that's a super common item that we look into on our side and that we ticket. So if something like that were to happen, that's not something like a cloud provider would be able to tell you about, but that's something that we as Arctic Wolf would be able to notice, say, hey, this is not normal activity on your account. What's going on here? Is this to be expected? If not, then we need to look into this and lock this account and make sure it's remediated.
Anna, this next one is definitely for you. Does Arctic Wolf client live on clients, network infrastructure, or both?
Yeah, that's a good question here. So I guess taking a step back and really just, how kind of we deploy, I'm just bringing this question back up. So how we deploy. So again, like I mentioned, we actually deploy sensors and our agents out into your environment. So essentially here we would be putting a sensor behind each firewall, and then we would be putting the agents out on each device as well. So again, that's something that's super helpful with everything that's going on right now in the work from home environment. Very, very pertinent to what's going on. But with that being said, we can kind of dig into more of the details if we need to too.
Tucker, this one's probably more along your lines, and it goes back to the traditional IT security layer.
Okay.
If there's a backup done every day with your Datto system, and for those of you that are not customers of ours, Datto is the preferred backup and disaster recovery solution that ABS recommends, and most, if not all, of our clients have this. So if there's a backup done every day with your Datto system, does ransomware lock that up? Or if we wipe and reboot, do we only lose 1 day of data? So what kind of risk are our customers at when they're recovering from Datto, Tucker?
Yeah, I think I'd answered this one earlier, John. The idea with that is Datto is taking a snapshot on an hourly basis, is usually how we have it set up. And but it is also has its own security features where it is looking for ransomware within that backup. So we are not backing up um, um, potential threats. We are just backing up your clean data when we do that. When we have a backup that does potentially have a risk in it, it'll quarantine that so that we know we're going back to a backup that is a clean backup if we had to restore and you were hit by a ransomware. So one of the great features of Datto, I can talk about that application or that appliance. We can do a whole webinar on that if we wanted, but one of the big critical features of any security plan is your ability to recover. That's why we recommend Datto so heavily, because we've had multiple customers where we've had to restore because of a ransomware attack, and it's caused a minimal outage because of that. So, and they haven't had to pay the ransom. So one of the things I wanted to make sure that we covered and is Big Bad Brad again, right? So you know, Brad, when we put this advanced bundle in place, Brad not only is better protected against phishing and spam because of the advanced spamware that we've put in as a part of our essential bundle. He's also trained better. So part of that essential bundle is a end user training solution, as well as he's more secure at home because of the DNS filter product we use as a part of that essential bundle. John will send out as a part of this the webinar we did on the essential bundle, but understand that essential bundle is a part of the advanced bundle too. So with the advanced bundle, now we're offering Hannah's Arctic Wolf services. So even if a threat got through all those layers that we've added in, we're now able to detect that very quickly. And again, if there's one stat you take away, that idea of the dwell time going down to whatever it was, less than 30 seconds, is the critical piece to this. We're reacting to a threat immediately when it happens. And so, and then finally, we're checking off, and I don't have it on the slide, but we're checking off a lot of your compliance requirements. The idea that if you have to have as a part of your compliance requirements event log monitoring, Hannah's solution fixes that for you and checks that box. If you have to have things like email encryption and email archival, those are a part of this bundle. So we want this to be a solution where we're not only making you more secure, but we are checking those compliance boxes too. I saw a great question come in, and it says, is the assumption that Brad is BYOD? No, it is not. We are assuming that this is a corporate owned laptop. And so, you know, the example when I talk about that fantasy football piece, it's, I think, a great example because it shows how a threat gets in even when it is a company owned device. So. All right, so we'll see, let's go here.
So kind of time to wrap things up.
Yeah.
So before we make sure that all questions were answered, you guys might, it's hard to, there we go. Tucker and I have been drinking out of our Arctic Wolf Yetis, and the ladies at Arctic Wolf has given us one to give away to you guys. So there is a trivia question here. I meant to give you a heads up on this before we started. But the first one to throw it in chat, if you know what Steve's fantasy football team name was.
Brad's was, yeah.
Brad, excuse me. We changed the name a time or two.
Yeah, that's
who
right.
it was, but if you can throw that into the chat, and I believe we have a winner. Can I throw it to the judges? Do we care about spelling?
We do not. Congratulations, Russ.
Yes, Russ, we will send the Arctic Wolf Yeti to the same place we sent your cocktail kit, and Kevin is a close second.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive. I came up with that one not too long ago. I was like, there's no way anybody's gonna know that one. Kind of sum it up, and then open it up to any more questions. I started it out saying it's our job to educate you guys on the risk and what the options are. We wanted to educate you. We brought Hannah in because only she can speak to the Arctic Wolf solution. Like we couldn't do that. So the next step really is in the EBR. When your technical account manager has that strategic discussion with you, it may be scheduled out a little bit. And Tucker's going to help make sure that we reach out and see if there's a one-off conversation. But we want to have an educated discussion with you and understand, is this a risk that or a security layer that we want to consider for your company specifically? And Arctic Wolf has been nice enough to give us a complimentary external scan that might help us with that conversation. So with that, we will wrap it up and make sure that we've answered all the questions or field any others that have been coming in. Tucker, there's one there at the bottom. I don't know that I'm smart enough to know what CCMC is. Is ABS aiming for a particular CMMC level, which a quick Google search tells me that's maybe a compliance? I think I'd like to answer that as ABS wants to make sure they're being good stewards of your IT security. We are not aiming to do much more than that. Tucker, would you add anything or correct me on that?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that it's the reason why we have Hannah here today. Is we want to leave that security piece when we get into the security operations center. We want to leave that up to experts that have a full staff of security engineers whose full-time job is looking at this sort of thing. So our ability to check those compliance boxes comes through our partnership with Arctic Wolf. I've got some questions around what's the difference between ABS and Arctic Wolf. I saw that in the chat, and I want to make sure that that's clear, is that we partner with Arctic Wolf because this is exactly what I'm talking about. They are the security experts and have a lot of tools, applications, things along those lines that allow that immediate response to a threat. But more importantly, it's their people. They have a 24/7 operation from a security perspective, and are immediately able to react to a threat that happens. So the advanced security bundle that we're talking about is adding various products, but also adding a team of security engineers to take care of those issues immediately. Did I answer that correctly, Hannah?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Taking a step back to CMMC, that's something that if you, I didn't see who exactly asked that, but whoever that is, if anyone is interested in CMMC, something that we hear all the time at Arctic Wolf, we can kind of help map that out. And if you need to be a certain level of CMMC, we can help a lot with that, especially, if you're going up to like level 3, most of the time you would need a SIM in place. And that's something that Arctic Wolf can help with and help you adhere to that compliance. With that being said, I think Tucker did a good job of explaining, the differences here. We're an arm of ABS, right? So we take the cybersecurity portion away from that, and we work with Tucker and his team to really make sure that you're covered on the back end from a security perspective. You know, I also want to note that, again, you know, I talked about in the beginning that we and the security landscape and the industry has to constantly adapt to really what's going on in the market at that given point. So that is why a lot of you are covered with, you know, whether it's advanced AV or next gen firewalls or whatever it may be, that you have in place and that ABS has helped brought into your environment. Really, we're an additional layer of security to make sure if anything does go wrong or if anything gets past those prevention tools that they've helped you put in place, that's why we're here. So
it's also why we're bundling these solutions, because we see the bundles as ever evolving. We want to add products in that make sense, that we'll subtract ones that aren't as effective as they used to be. So the idea is when you're purchasing this bundle that you're purchasing a set of solutions and ABS and Arctic Wolf behind those solutions to react to the security risks that you have. That's the end of my spiel. I appreciate the 9 votes saying you didn't want to see me, but I'm really hoping that you enjoyed the old fashions, and glad we had such great participation.
Yeah, I would add on to that too. Just, you know, reach out if you have any questions at all. And I'm sure that John, you know, this is how you're going to wrap up, but we're more than happy to reach with, or, you know, talk with any of you about how your network's set up and how we can help within your network. That was really the goal, is that this is to open the door to the security conversation, then we can go from there. So I'll pass it over.
Your technical account manager will definitely be following up with you after the event, and potentially introduce Hannah to you all on a personal level to work through your individual needs, because every environment is unique for sure.
So wrap it up. Thank you everybody for joining. I don't know if my distraction was caught on camera, but our governor did announce that restaurants were going to be closing on Friday. So please go out and support your local restaurants. Go get another old fashioned.
Yeah.
As somebody said in the chat, we didn't send them enough booze for this type of discussion, but your TAMs will follow up. And again, please go support your local restaurants.
And maybe they'll follow up with a bottle of booze, John. That's not a bad idea.
That is a very good idea. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.